You're listening to SM Media, the #1 place for exclusive content.
Hi everyone and welcome to the latest show of the SM Media Euro 2020 show. I'm Scott McPike, delighted to be your host as always. Got a very busy show to get through tonight and we brought along our star-studded panel as always. Mark Wilson's here. No, the best Saturday night for you, Wilson, was it?
No, it certainly was not. Very, very, very disappointed in Ukraine's performance. Not to be fair, not that I expected much more from them, to be honest, because I think they've been honking as well. But disappointing result. But let's hope. I'm now half Danish, so let's see if they can do us a favour Wednesday.
Shankers is on as well. Shankers, how are we doing?
I am as good as we can be for a Sunday evening.
Very good. Rory Loy's here as well. Rory, how are we?
I'm as good as I can be when Wilson gets a prediction right. He was right. They blew them away, which is slightly concerning given that I didn't know how they would handle getting through a team that might be stuffy. But Wilson was absolutely right. Just blew them away. Definitely.
We're going to look back in the two games on Saturday as the quarter-finals drew to a close. We'll preview the two semi-finals and we're going to take some fan questions, not just in the Euros. We've got a couple of Scottish football questions as well. So we'll go back to our roots for the end of this show. But we'll start off with the game in Baku. Czech Republic 1, Denmark 2. Denmark booked their place in the semi-finals. They become the first team to reach a semi-finals after losing their first two group games. Rory, do you feel Denmark deserve to go through?
Probably on the balance of play, I would say so. I don't think Czech Republic did quite enough to get that second goal. Some of Denmark's quality in the first half was excellent. Listen, the circumstances surrounding it, the first two defeats were obviously tragic and things like that. So, you can look at that and go, they've got momentum through all pulling together, through what happened. But to lose your first two games and then be sitting in a semi-final, having performed the way they did in the last 16, and then last night was brilliant because Czech Republic are no mugs. And one thing I would say is that Schick going off injured with 10-15 minutes to go was a big blow because they needed him on the park. It was some finish, by the way, to get them back in it. I think that was his 5th goal of the tournament. So yeah. On the balance of play, Denmark deserve to go through, I would say. But, one of those ones where if Czech Republic do score and it goes to extra time, I don't think it's an outrage. But they seem to have the full of Europe behind them, Denmark. So they've got momentum. They've got that emotional pull to try and get to the final now. So we'll be interested to see what happens. But to answer your question, I think the best team went through on the day.
Yeah, definitely. Delaney gave Denmark the lead with a header, and then it was a terrific goal from Kasper Dolberg from an excellent cross by Joachim Mæhle before Schick gave the Czech Republic a lifeline in the second half. But Shankers, how impressed were you with that Denmark performance and the second goal? Because I think it's probably one of the goals of the tournament.
It's a great finish. One of the boys I was watching, we were talking, and if he goes and attacks the ball with outside his boot and he misses just before half time, then he's getting absolute pelters because a goal. I know it was there's still another half to play, but it kind of technically killed the tie. But it's a terrific finish, and Denmark are probably the winners when the Czechs get the goal. Probably got a goal as good a time as they could have got. They could have thought of with 4 minutes into the second half. It's a long time to get something out of the game. But I was saying last night, I agree with Wilson. I think the game kind of died a death later on, and whether it's too much football for the players or whether it's too many minutes under their belt or whatever. But I just felt the later the game got on, it just kind of a bit of a slog almost. But for the Czechs, although they had to push for it and try and get an equaliser, I never really felt as if it was coming. And Denmark were one of the winners. And for their start of the tournament to now, it's fair play to them to get to this stage. I think that's an achievement in itself, and they've got nothing to lose now, so good luck to them.
Yeah, definitely. Wilson, I'll get your thoughts on the game first, but I want to come to you about the stadium. Obviously, it was played in Baku with 10,000 fans. There was 33,000 tickets available. Do you think that just ruined the atmosphere, the fact there was so little people in it?
I think any half-empty stadium is going to have an effect on, because obviously we've either had no fans and now we're starting to drip feed them in. I mean, the stadium itself looks absolutely fantastic, but I just wonder what the sense is in playing Denmark, Czech Republic, and Baku. Surely there must be a wee degree of flexibility to play it somewhere kind of more neutral between the Denmark and the Czech Republic, maybe somewhere in Germany or something, to play the game. But I think you always find that, it's, again, we've been kind of brought up, and not that it happens rarely, but even sometimes when you've maybe been at Ibrox or Parkhead and the home team's losing and a lot of the fans leave, it's quite a surreal feeling to be in a 60,000 or 50,000 seater stadium with 10,000 folk left in it. So I'd imagine it must be quite tough for the players, because they're getting no kind of motivation or anything, not kind of feeding from the crowd. But I say it's senseless to play the game there, in all honesty. But I say that's if that's what UEFA are doing, then so be it. But yeah, very strange that there's lots of neutrals. It was a wee bit. I felt like the same, and I know a lot of folk don't particularly like Hampden. I quite like Hampden, if I'm honest. But playing a Sweden-Ukraine game there, there's not that many Swedish people or Ukrainian people in Scotland, so the travel and all that, it doesn't make a lot of sense, some of the venues for the games. And I know we moan about England playing all their games at Wembley, but at least there's England fans in there, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely.
It's all set in stone in it, so it's kind of hard when the teams are getting to that stage, when it's probably all mapped out anyway. But you would think, how many stadiums was there? 8. You would think they would be able to compromise when they see, right, it's the 2 teams that's in it, move that a wee bit more central.
Especially when there's 20,000 tickets unsold. Like it's.
I mean,
it makes a bit of a mockery of
all places. Why is that even a venue to start with? Never mind one of the venues for a quarter final.
Yeah, definitely. But Denmark are booked a place into the semi-finals. They will play England on Wednesday night at Wembley. England booked a place with a 4-0 win over Ukraine. Very convincing. Opposite of what I think the 3 out of the 4 of us thought it would be. Harry Kane with a double. Harry Maguire and Jordan Henderson got in the act as well. Shankers, what was your overall thoughts on England's performance?
I said on here I thought they would get an early goal and then they would take their foot off the gas and maybe get one later on when Ukraine were pushing forward. But it's probably I think, not the worst thing, but I think one of the things I took from it is I think England can still play better. I actually think England could still raise it a wee bit, and that's the bad thing, is that I'm sure that I speak for the 4 is that the last thing we want to see is England going and win this tournament. But I actually think they can play better, and maybe when they're playing a bigger opponent, which you've seen in the Germany game, they got the result. And I think Head says Hart was saying Ukraine, Head was saying an England win. They were too strong for them all over the park, and Ukraine could probably just walk away with their heads held high that they got to the stage they got to. But England dominant, and as I've said repeatedly before, they'll really, really fancy themselves now, and so they should.
Yeah, definitely. It was England's strongest win at the Euro since 2004. Rory, you've said before that you weren't impressed with England's performances so far, but did they change your opinion last night?
Aye, they did, to be fair. I think Shankers has been a bit harsh. I don't know if you can play much better than that. I mean, considering how Ukraine set up, if you look at either side of Harry Kane, you've got Sterling was outstanding, especially in the first half. He really, really was. He impacted the game with every touch of the ball. He never gave the ball away. He was taking it in difficult positions in his own half, winning free kicks, setting up the goal. Sancho grew into the game, had some really nice touches. Up top, you've got Harry Kane scoring a couple of goals. Defensively sound, Harry Maguire going up, getting a goal as well. They moved the ball at pace. They never gave Ukraine a minute. They dominated the first half, although when Ukraine did change their shape with maybe 5-6 minutes to go the first half, they looked a little bit better. England came out in the second half and just put the game to bed instantly, and they didn't rest on it either. They went and scored 2 more goals, and historically watching England, as an outsider, you always feel they're susceptible to losing one of the easier ties. History would tell you that, or mentally not quite being to the standard to win a major tournament. But last night they were exceptional, I must say. They were really, really good. I enjoyed watching them. They moved the ball, like I said, really quickly. I've not seen one team yet that I think could beat Italy. Whereas last night I would say that if England can turn up and play like that in the final, if they get there, I think they could beat an Italy or a Spain.
Wilson, you've mentioned before, obviously allegiance is out the window, that this England, you feel this England team it was all falling into place. Do you stand by that?
Yes, I do. I touched on it the other night. Now, again, no disrespect to Denmark, but I don't think there's a squad in the whole of Europe or has been at European Championships that's as good as the England squad. And I think the adaptability and the changes that Gareth Southgate can make, because this is as poor a German team as I've probably ever seen in my lifetime, as poor a Spanish team. You know, it's been in the last, I mean, I've seen some real poor Spain teams over the years, but since obviously their success at the Euros and the World Cup, poor. France have some incredible world-class players, felt of the lottery of penalties, you could argue. But in the England team, I don't think there's maybe no some world-class players in each position, but pretty much all these players are very, very good players, and they're littered with world-class players as well. And as I say, I cannot see. I could easily see them taking 4 off Italy as well, the way they're playing. The only slight negative, it would be interesting to see whether it be the semi or the final if the opposition score first, and see the reaction from the crowd and the players, because, as I say, there's been some real. I mean, England's toughest game's been against Scotland.
Do you think there's been a couple of times though where maybe even last night as well, but Scotland was another one? The goalkeeper and perhaps Walker, they became a bit uneasy. There was a couple of wee niggly mistakes last night. That
I think that's in Kyle Walker's game, though. I think because he's so blessed with great pace, if he makes a mistake, he knows he's going to be able to recover to some degree. I think a lot of the time Pickford can be susceptible to an error, but I think he's just been. I think he's just been told, see if that comes back to you and there's a guy within 10 yards, launch it. So you see a lot of these continental goalkeepers, which annoys the life out of me in the last 30 seconds of the game. They're playing 16 passes across their 6-yard box rather than getting it forward. I think Pickford's been told, if you have any 1% doubt, then I'll just launch it up the field. And as I did say at the start of the tournament, if England were not going to win it, I think it would be something, to do with, I don't think he's a good goalie. He's not a great goalie, in my opinion. I'm sure his bank manager will tell me different. But whereas if you look through the rest of the team, you're not going to, I mean, the 4 right backs, you're not going to get many better right backs in the world than probably the 4 of them. Luke Shaw at left back. I thought he
was terrific last night.
Exactly. He's been outstanding this season for Manchester United as well. Harry Maguire gets his critics, but he doesn't lose many headers, and John Stones kind of comes on a game because Harry Maguire's doing the dirty work. Again, I'm quite sure there's probably better holding midfielders in the world than Rice and Phillips, but from the front 4 on, and even the guys on the bench, Sancho, Foden, Mount, Grealish, Kane, you'll struggle to go anywhere to find better than that, and that's why I think I would just put the name on the tournament now and save playing these 2 games for them, because, as I say, I think they're more than capable of ripping Denmark to bits and the Italians to bits.
It's very different though. Like, I do agree with what you're saying, and see if it was over the course of a league season, then I would put England probably top of the tree with France, as a kind of 2-horse race. But the best team doesn't always win tournament football. Man City won that Premier League by a distance last year, yet Chelsea won the Champions League. So when it comes to knockout football and one-off games, the best team and the best squad doesn't always win. France are an example of that this year. And that's what I mean by mentality when it comes to England. I think they'll fall short because I don't think they've got the mentality, and I think there's too many doubts from previous years in their head. It's went well so far. I don't doubt what Wilson's saying, and I agree to an extent. I don't think they're capable of beating Italy 4-0 without conceding a goal to Italy. I think they're capable of scoring 4 goals potentially, but no going out and trouncing them 4-0. However, I think that where England will fall short, it's not their squad or their quality. That's undoubted, and it is probably the best in the tournament, in my opinion, after France, starting 11-wise. But it's a mentality thing. Tournament football is a different ball game. The best team will win a league The best team always wins the league. The best team doesn't always win a Champions League. The best team doesn't always win a major championship when it comes to international football. And I think that.
But what I totally agree. But what I'm saying is, I don't think there's, like, when Man City winning the Premiership, as you gave the example, you know, Man United were good last season, Chelsea were good, you know, Liverpool were good. I don't think there's been anyone else good, maybe out with Italy so far in this tournament. But again, Italy have beat Belgium, which folk were saying, oh, the winners of that will win it. I didn't think Belgium on the night were particularly great. I felt Italy played well. But I just think their style against the England style, I think England are more than capable.
Do you not think England have came across, like, got over a sort of mental barrier this tournament compared to, like, maybe they got to this stage in 2018, but Kane scored a last minute goal against Panama, I think it is. Maguire scored a goal later on against somebody as well. They were scraping through games then, whereas no conceded a goal now up to this stage. They're winning when they know at their best. I think that is the sign of a team that goes in and wins a major.
Possibly. No, it could be, but I do think they'll fall short. They might get to the final based on playing Denmark, but I do agree with Wilson though. Seeing them go 1-0 down will be interesting. And that will be, if they come back and win from going a goal down, then that would probably test my theory wrong. But I just think that at the first sign of a wobble or a difficult situation, you'll see different people on that pitch.
Do you think the psychological thing can work in reverse though, in terms of the media are just waiting to pounce on them, and you know the boys are saying, well, if we get beaten in the semi-finals or the final or whatever, we expect that, because no matter how far we go, so there's actually maybe no pressure on them to go and express themselves.
I think this type of group of players, I've said it before, has got that mentality. Know that they're no caring what media says, but I just think that they're just so confident in their own ability to go and express themselves. I think it's a different type of player than they've had before, and I think that works massively in their favour with Mount, Foden, Grealish, Rice and Phillips to a certain extent, because they've never had midfielders. I'm not saying no as good as that, but like it's totally different to what they've had before, and it seems to be working somehow. And I'm going to have to keep my words, because I say England would never win the tournament with it in the middle, but it's looking very likely.
I think
that, again, I always think that, you know, when, as I say, and it would up me, it would make me angry. For example, if I was Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard, and I'm sitting in the studios now, or I'm at Rangers training and going, we couldn't get to a World Cup final, a Euro final. Look at us, and you're watching Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. Even the likes, no disrespect, as I say, I think he's a great player, but they must be looking at Luke Shaw and going, wait a minute, we had Ashley Cole, we had John Terry, we had Rio, and these guys are world class. And then they could walk away and see, you know, Declan Rice with a European Championships medal.
But that squad's more of a team though. That's one thing I've noticed.
I think
that England team 15 years ago, they would talk about how they couldn't communicate with one another. Like,
I don't think it was anything to do with
that's their fault then.
I totally agree. That's the difference.
Comes back to what you said the other night as well, Wilson, though, that the standard of opposition is there, but when you look at the teams that have won these tournaments and the teams that are competing, you know, the teams that this England team, this side are playing against, and it sounds bitter, call it what you want, it is a fact. When you look at the Spanish team of 2008 through 2012, you look at the German team from years ago, this team would not be able to compete. This England team would not be able to compete with those sides on a consistent basis.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's what Wilson said the other night is very relevant to what we're talking about here. I think that with it would be very interesting to see that England side, that golden generation England side in this tournament. I know you're never going to get that; it's hypothetical, but you can't tell me if you had Paul Scholes and Gerrard in their prime, they wouldn't be playing and they wouldn't be sitting on the bench. Put it that way.
But we'll move on to we'll preview the semi-finals, which are coming up, and all roads are now at Wembley. The Wembley has got the next 3 games. We'll start off on Tuesday night, Spain versus Italy. Rory, you've been very, very bullish about this Italy team. What do we think is going to happen here on Tuesday night?
I think they'll win. I think they'll go through. I think that I just love watching them. Even the first night, you turn on the telly, and what I often do is when you put the football on, sometimes you find yourself going on your phone, or Italy are playing Turkey, you go on your phone, or you start doing the dishes. Or I sat and watched the full game. They were that good. I just loved watching them, and I thought it'd be interesting to see who else turns up and plays like that. And I don't think any team did on the opening fixtures. And then you watch them in the second game, and they're fantastic again. And then against Wales, made changes, did the job. They were a bit sticky against Austria, and then that performance the other night against Belgium, Insigne and Immobile, and watching them all, they just, everything from the managerial suits right through to their finishing is just top drawer. Then you look at Chiellini and Bonucci and Donnarumma, and the way they're celebrating every tackle and every run and every goal, and I just feel like something special's happening with them. I can't see past them. I really do think. I do think England have got a shot now, but I would still have Italy down as firm favourites. The way they're playing, they've got such a good balance. They're so good to watch, and I think they'll come out on top against Spain. And I think I know Spain have scored a lot of goals. I think they'll have a lot of possession. Spain. I think it'll be like a John Hughes team. They get loads and loads of possessions, but can he get in with the goal? And I think when they come up against Italy, it'll be a little bit like that. And I think Italy will run out, and I could see it being 3-0.
Big call for Rory, Italy to win 3-0. Shankers, what we're thinking for Tuesday night, Spain versus Italy semi-final?
I agree with Rory. I think Spain will have a lot of the ball. It's just whether they've got a cutting edge to beat Italy. And you see some of the Italians, Donnarumma, they celebrate stopping a shot, blocking a shot, stopping a cross, whatever, the same way as they celebrate a goal. And I just think their mentality, their winning mentality, they've been on unbeaten in 30 odd games, and that's it takes a lot to go on a run like that. And the momentum, and whether you're beating somebody 5-0 or 1-0, see, just winning constantly and they're getting used to it. You can see that they're willing to do anything to win a game of football. They've got their bodies in the line. They're doing everything, whether we like it or not, wasting time and all that. It's all part and parcel. You're just showing they will do anything to win the game. And at this stage of the competition, before the competition, I didn't see them coming to this stage. But now that they're here, I would love to see Italy and England get to the final. I think it would be a right cracking game, and that's what I fancy. I don't think it'll be as comfortable as 3-0. I think it could be one by one goal, 2-1 or 1-0 Italy. But I think it would be well deserved if they get to the final. I would like to see Spain do it, but I think Italy will beat them.
Shank, another vote for Italy for Shankers. Wilson, how do you see the Spain-Italy game going?
I actually think it might be a wee bit different. I think with the way things have been going this tournament, I can guarantee that this semi-final will go to extra time and penalties. So there's the fatigue that sets in, and again, I'm talking historically. I'm a lot older than you guys. I sometimes think the psychology thing comes into the Italian teams over the years as well. So I'm going to go. I think Spain will win on penalties, but it'll go the full way, and then it's a lottery. But
Missed a couple of penalties the other night, Spain.
Sorry,
they missed 1 or 2 penalties the other night. Big Donnarumma and the goals.
Again, it's a mentality thing for me. I think I don't see Ireland beating England anyway, so it's kind of probably irrelevant who goes in. Italy have done well. Italy have been better to watch than Spain over the piece, and I think at the moment they're probably a better team. But again, not to value my predictions on this channel, so I'll go Spain on penalties.
Rory, how are you going to see your beloved Italy score past this Spain goalie? Going to be cheering and in tears at the same time.
Pass it back to him.
It'll be 3-0 Italy, but Big Shy will be man of the match. That's how good Italy will be. He'll get man of the match and he'll still get beat 3-0. Wilson, we want a score prediction as well.
No.
Oh.
Okay.
I see Italy winning 2-1. I think Spain are going to create chances. I just don't think Bonucci or Chiellini is going to let them take them. I think there's a big thing with possession here, but I think Italy are going to be too strong. Spinazzola is a big miss, which we'll come on to in a few minutes, but I think Italy are going to be strong enough to beat Spain. I think they'll take their chances better.
Just on a man, see Morata, he's not a great tournament, right? But he's playing against two centre backs that he knows very, very well. Whether I know that they're probably two of the toughest defenders to play against, but I'm sure Rory's come up against boys and he's playing days that he knows he's played against before or he knows well and stuff like that. And it can work totally against you because they know you as well, but it can work for you. And whether he's not been confident this tournament, he's like, and I know them almost inside out, and I know he's not had a great tournament, but he could be thinking about that as a wee bit of a confidence booster. Right? I know.
Can't see it, man. I cannot see it. I think that
I would love to see it because I almost feel sorry for him.
Bonucci and Chiellini will have him subbed by. Nah, they won't have him subbed actually because they've got nobody to bring on. To be fair, he stays on the pitch, but Bonucci and Chiellini will eat him for dinner.
So we're pretty much three votes for Italy and Wilson to go for Spain in penalties. Wednesday night, England, Denmark. Wilson, you're pretty much saying there that you fancy England. Give us a score prediction. And when will the game be finished by?
Half time. England built 2-0 by half time. And I'll maybe let Kasper Schmeichel score late on. So I'll go 3-1 England. 3-1 England. But very, very comfortable.
Who's scoring first?
It depends on the team. Do you
think he'll change the team because Denmark will play more open?
No, I think he'll go with a good front three: Foden, Grealish, and Sterling. I think he might go with three and rotate those three. No, Kane will play up front. That would be the three behind.
Oh, right.
Along with the two Paul Lamberts and holding midfield.
I think he could match Denmark by Denmark play 3-4-3. I think he could go and match them up like that because he done it with Germany. Germany play the same and they went and matched Germany like for like, and I think he could do the same with Denmark because if you go around every single one of the players, England's got a better player in each position. I think he could go and match them up.
Do you think Sancho keeps his place?
No.
I thought he played. Did you think he played well? I thought he played well.
The game suited him to a T where England's got all of the ball and he's going to get the ball fed to him all the time.
You're playing against Sturton of the European Championship, you know what I mean? For 75 million, I'd be expecting some good touches, to be honest. Bloody hell. Know what I mean? No, but as I say, because I mean, in my predictor, I've got England to win it and Kane to be top scorer. So
that does make a mockery of the whole thing at times, though. I mean, Ukraine got 3 points. We're sat in the hotel rooms for 2 nights waiting to see if they went through. And then they go through, they slog it out against a better team, win on penalties. Then you're sitting down to watch a quarter-final European Cup and somebody's getting dicked 4-0.
I totally agree. Regardless of performances, you wanted your Belgiums, your Italys, your Germanys, you want the 8 best teams in the quarter-finals.
I prefer that without the round of 16. I know it's good for us as, football lovers sitting watching these games, but it's far more competitive when 2 go through. I think that's the way it should be. But I know we get more games in this way.
But then Scotland wouldn't have been there, so we'll just keep it the way it is. Thanks very much.
Do you think the Sancho starting was almost a token gesture? Because I think anybody, like, how many teams do you see that somebody no playing the first 3 games and then goes and starts in the last 16? It's almost as if he knows that he's comfortable enough, can just chucking him in. I mean, no other team would bring somebody out the blue. I think that's one of England's.
You know what I noticed, Shankers? See, at the end of the game, Southgate, it was on the cameras on Southgate for quite a while, right? And he grabbed Grealish as he came out the dugout, and he had his arm around him and he was talking to him for I'm going to say a good couple of minutes. Obviously, the camera was only on him for maybe 5-10 seconds, but what do you think he was saying to him?
Okay, I know it's.
He didn't even go.
Do you think it shows you the depth of talent that England can afford to keep Grealish and Foden on the bench?
Yeah, it's only the 2 goalies, Ben White and Connor Cody, that's not played a minute.
Chilwell, he played.
I think so.
No, he was too busy winching Billy Gilmer. He was after.
But no, I just think that conversation must be. I mean, how do you have that conversation in that straight after the game? Is it the old, is it the token gesture? Keep your chin up, wee man, you're doing well.
Well, I think he sees Grealish as a player where if things aren't going right, he plays. Whereas everything was going in their favour, so he doesn't really need to bring a Jack Grealish on. Whereas the next game, he probably like Grealish unlocks doors and stuff like that. Like when things aren't going their way, and you've seen that against Germany when he come on, and I think they'll maybe need him more the next game. And he's maybe saying that he can't always guarantee somebody minutes because you don't know how the game's going to go. But I think it would be one of the ones where they don't worry because we've got the next game and you'll be heavily involved in that one. But I don't think he starts the next game either. But I think the next game is more suited to him because I think it will be tighter than what obviously that Ukraine game was.
Mm-hmm, definitely. Rory, give us a prediction for Denmark, England.
One each. England to win 2-1 after extra time.
Big call. Shankers, what we got?
I think just to go to that, I think that they'll pinpoint Pickford because I think Pickford looked really nervous last night, even at 3 or 4-0, and they'll know he's got mistakes in him. I know he's done well when he's made big saves, but Pickford has got mistakes in him, and I think that Denmark, with set pieces, even 30, 40 yards away from the goal, will put things on top of him. They'll get their big guys up, and I think Pickford, if he's flapping early doors, make him under a little bit of pressure from every single set piece.
Yeah, I can see that as well.
Love you to be right.
I can see that. I can actually see that as well because I think Denmark are the best team England are going to play so far, football-wise. I know Germany, we saw a really good Germany performance against Portugal, but they were non-existent in that England game.
Denmark also can flying out the traps the last two rounds.
Yeah,
so it'll be very interesting if they both can flying out the traps. It could make for a very interesting 15
and
minutes.
They've got two wing backs who put in excellent deliveries.
The left back's quality, isn't he?
Myla,
yeah. He's
that cross the other night, and then watching Modric. I mean, everybody teaches their kids to kick with both feet. You'd be watching that, the kids would be going, "Are you mad? I'll just do that." The quality of Modric's goal and the quality of that cross is phenomenal.
Do you not think it shows you how good this Denmark team's been, though, when you consider, although we know Eriksen's probably their talisman, isn't he? Like he's probably their best player. It shows you how kind of impressive they've been and how kind of much everybody else is contributing. The fact that they've done really well without probably their star man.
He's a star man, but I still don't think he's a world-class player. You know? Obviously, I wouldn't wish anything that happened to him on anybody, but as I say, I don't think he's a world-class player, but I agree he's probably their talisman, and maybe that's kind of guided them kind of mentally as well. But I don't think you would look, apart from Kasper Schmeichel, I rate him very highly. I don't think you would look at anyone in that Denmark team and say, we're better than their England counterpart. That's why I think England will just steamroll them. It's the same as last night.
Do we know who the last team to beat England at Wembley were?
Denmark.
It was Denmark.
So, did you know that, or was that just an
No, I did know
guess?
that. I did know that.
I knew that as well. I knew that as well.
I googled it.
I celebrate any time they get beat. Any time when it's at Wembley or away, I celebrate any time they lose.
See the way Denmark play. I know they've throughout the tournament. This is obviously their toughest test. Do you think they can afford to come out and play the way that they've played and not get punished for it? Like being as open and expansive against a team, especially with the forward players that England's got. Do you think they can afford to do that without getting picked off and punished?
But do you not see that in another way as well? That could happen the other way.
They've been successful with that style of play, so they might just keep going with it.
It's going to be.
I think 100% they have to go with it because they've got to this stage with it. But I don't think they'll came up against a team with such good quality as what England's got, and I think that could work against them if they come out and open up like that.
This is a controversial comment, but for all as good as England were last night, and I loved watching them, to be fair, they did score 3 goals from set pieces, and Denmark will be looking at that going, we're not conceding goals like that. We shouldn't be conceding goals like that.
The difference with that was, I think, Ukraine don't have big guys in defence. Denmark have got Kjær, Christensen.
So to answer that question, if Denmark come out and play the way they've been playing, they're not going to be potentially that concerned that England are going to cut them open. When you look at the Ukraine game, they created chances and things, but 3 of their goals came from crosses for dead balls. So I think Denmark have nothing to fear or nothing to lose. I suppose I said that about Ukraine as well, but Denmark have definitely more quality.
Yeah, I think this could go all the way as well. I can see England potentially winning this in penalties. I think England will. I think there's something different. The psychological boost that England's given them. I think they're gonna do it that way. I think England in penalties. Shankers, did you give a score?
No, I think it'll be 0-0 at half time, 2-0 England.
2-0 England. So
got me.
Like that one, Rory.
We start that one again.
So we've got the semi-finals previewed. We're going to take some questions. We'll do a couple of Scottish football questions at the end, but we've got a few Euro questions. How big a miss will Spinazzola be to Italy, Shankers?
Huge, I think. I think it's different because I always prefer a left-footed player playing at left back just for the balance, but he's totally changed that complex, and with the way he plays, I think he works brilliant with Insigne in front of him. I think he's going to be a huge miss, and I think is it Emerson at Chelsea that come on to replace him all night there?
Yeah, he'll play.
Which he's obviously still a good player, but for the tournament, I'm kind of gutted for him because how good he's been to get to this point, and then so close, and then he's missing it. But that also gives Italy. I've seen a couple of posts in their social media, and there's a few things about him. All the players are singing his name and stuff like that on the plane on the way home, and that maybe give them an extra incentive to go and do it for him. So he's obviously going to be a huge miss, but they've still got a quality player in Emerson to replace him. So they will miss him, but as I said, they've still got somebody to and cover. It will be different though because he's a left-footed player, so whether they have to change up anything tactically, but it'll be a big miss.
Yeah. Rory, is Spinazzola been one of the standouts to you in that early team?
Aye, absolutely. In that first game against Turkey as well, he was outstanding. He really was. But they've got strength and depth. The fact that Locatelli can't get a game kind of suggests that they've got strength and depth. I do think they're weakened by Spinazzola missing, but I don't think it's going to weaken them to the point that they need to play a different way or a different style of play or a different formation and things. So I think if Emerson can come in and do his job and contribute offensively, maybe not to the extent that Spinazzola does, if he can come in and contribute offensively, then Italy will be fine.
Yeah. Wilson, you getting to add in Spinazzola?
No, I just think like any manager when they're picking their squad, they're going to have 2 players for each position. Depending, because it could quite easily have been suspended for this one or whatever, so they just got to call that. That's part of tournament football. That's why you're allowed 26 players. But he's been a very good player. He's been a very good player. And say if you're missing your best players, then this is what I say about England's squad in depth. If Trippier doesn't play or Luke Shaw doesn't play, there's somebody able to come in, and if the guy's playing with Chelsea that's coming in, then he must be pretty good as well, I would imagine.
Definitely. Wilson, have the Belgium golden generation failed to deliver at major tournaments, and was that the last chance for glory?
Yes. Yeah. Big failure for the players that they have. I don't see the likes of Vertonghen and Alderweireld making the World Cup qualifiers, and that I think their day is gone. Courtois must be pushing that kind of age as well. You still have De Bruyne, Lukaku. You still have some world class players, but in terms of that squad and the ability in that squad, I think that's the Belgians done. Yeah.
Rory, what's your thoughts on Belgium?
Listen, it's hard to disagree with that, but it kind of comes back to what I'm saying earlier. It's very difficult at that level to go and win 4 one-off games to win a tournament. Italy could play Belgium, 10 times, and it could be split 50-50 on who wins, whether you look at those 2 squads. So a lot of it comes down to holding your nerve, but I genuinely think that Italy turned up the other night. I think that Belgium were... I know me and Shankers discussed it. Shankers thought it was a penalty. It's one of those ones that you could probably get either way, but they were quite fortunate to get it, I thought. And Italy blew them away, to be honest. 2-0 up. And it looked like it was going to be even more when Belgium got a bit of a scrappy pen. They stick it away. Italy do enough to see the game out. But in terms of Belgium, I think that's the end of the road for the current squad. But what they might see if De Bruyne and Lukaku are still there in a few years, they might, the boy Doku looked really good. They might see a sprinkling of players where there's less pressure on them because they're not expected to do as well. And that's when you get your performances like England in the 2018 World Cup. For the first time in my lifetime, England went into that tournament. I don't think even the English expected all that much. And I think that little bit of pressure not being on them helped them. So you might see Belgium come good again just from the lack of pressure being on them, whereas all eyes were on Belgium at every tournament. They're one of the main teams that are discussed, but as far as the golden generation goes, it's another one missed for them.
Shankers, what's your thoughts on Belgium?
See how with De Bruyne, Eden Hazard, and Lukaku, I think everybody else is a good player. I don't think they're world class. I mean, the defenders, they're really good. They're good defenders, Premier League experience, stuff like that. But I don't think they're world class players. And for a team ranked first in the world for, I don't know whether they're still first or whatever, but they have been for a wee while. I don't know if they merit that. As I said, I think De Bruyne, Lukaku, and Hazard are three world class players, but I think all the rest of them are just good players, and that's why I wouldn't say I'm shocked that they've no won anything. I wasn't really. I was expecting them to get to this kind of roughly stage of the tournaments. I think that's where they should be getting to quarters, semi-finals. But I think there's 4 or 5 other nations that I would rank better than Belgium, and that's why I never really think can't see them winning anything. Can't win it run about the new with these players and the age that they're at, almost in their prime. Then I think they will be struggling because teams like England and stuff like that, Italy, they're all getting better. So.
Amid reports of a rift between Kylian Mbappe and Antoine Griezmann. Do we think Kylian Mbappe has an attitude problem? Give us to Shankers.
What a question.
Personal assault.
An attitude. It's obviously hard for the outside looking in. When you see him on the pitch, he doesn't really give off that. I wouldn't say he looks like somebody that enjoys his football and stuff like that. So he doesn't. I don't think you really get that from him. But that could be totally different when you're in house. When you're training with somebody every day and stuff like that, you'll get to know him and you'll kind of feed off him and see what he's like. So it is hard to tell from the outside looking in that it doesn't really give off that effect, but it could. I don't think it's. I mean, is there any news of what it's about?
I will just read what they said. There's talk that Kylian Mbappe was unhappy with Antoine Griezmann being the vocal point of the team and is said to have been sulking throughout the whole tournament at the fact he wasn't the main man. Now, again, that's. When you
need to feel that you're the main man in the team, I think that's an issue straight away, especially with the amount of players
you said it as well.
France have got.
He made himself the man to take the 5th penalty, potentially a winning penalty.
No, when you're saying something like that, I'm not saying I'm right, but when you're saying, I mean, you don't know how true these things are, but if say it is true, then it seems to work in. I think, see, with somebody like France, how can you want to be the main man with an absolute electric talent over the pitch? So I think if he feels the need that he needs to be the main man and somebody needs to go and tell him that he's the main man, I think that's an issue in itself.
I've never got that impression with Mbappe, Rory, have you?
No, you don't.
Listen, mate, I don't take heed of these types of stories. I don't particularly enjoy them. You've only got to go back a few years. If you look at every single paper over the last kind of 2 weeks, who's at the front of them in this country? Raheem Sterling praised him to hell, all the good things he does and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. He has a bad tournament a couple of years ago. What did they concentrate on? Well, he's bought £1 million house. He's got a gun in his leg. He's got this. He's got that. It's very easy, especially when things don't go well, to try and invent a story which probably doesn't exist. But the media love to do that. So, listen, I agree with you, Pikey. I think when you watch Ronaldo play, and he's so good that he can demand that. I don't think Mbappe's on that level. I don't think he ever will be on the level of Messi and Ronaldo. But Mbappe doesn't come across at that. He doesn't. he doesn't want all the glory. He passes when it's appropriate to pass instead of shooting, etc. So he certainly doesn't come across like that, if you want my opinion on it. He doesn't look like he's got an attitude problem. But I wouldn't take heed of what the mainstream media say when it comes to these type of stories.
Wilson, you want to add to that?
Nah, they're both rubbish anyway. Who cares? I think when you got when you got all these guys, and I'm quite sure, and it's, as you touched on earlier, Scott, about the England squad over the years, there must be guys with massive egos in every squad, and whoever's maybe playing with a better team or has got more money, etc., etc. And as I say, you can look at Mbappe's body language as he went to hit the penalty and it was missed. That's going on. You still see guys dinking penalties and scoring, and everything's forgotten about.
But he could have been nervous. He just could have been nervous. I mean, he's
exactly, because he is still a young man. He's still a young man. But just to try and spin the question, Scott, it's a good question. If Shankers and Rory at their glittering careers, have you ever been in a dressing room with someone whose attitude's not quite been spot on, and how have you dealt with it?
Art Roberts says mine's wasn't it here, but
he said your attitude wasn't right.
Aye.
But going from Liverpool to Ayr, I can understand that. From training with Gerrard, Torres, Suarez to Marco and Kevin Kyle, I can understand that, Shankers. You don't have to explain yourself.
I don't know if you seen when he was the manager at Ayr. Somebody during the season was in the dressing room and that they were right a kind of book on the season or something. I don't know if you've read it or whatever. But I never read it either, but somebody had said something. I mean, that was almost what it was said. And the thing, I was getting 6-7 days a week when we were only part-time training, getting 120 quid a week as a young boy. And I don't know whether that's expected or no, but how you can go in and train that amount of times and then have an attitude problem. I don't know if asking or not expecting, but thinking that you should be playing in the team at a young age is an attitude problem. I don't know if that's it. So I've never really been in a dressing room with somebody that's got an attitude problem, but I have been told that I am that person, so maybe
I've heard Stevie Wilson's got a right attitude problem because he's a big fish doing it, Talbot, but again, that's a bit of no talking.
Wally Lyle's probably got the biggest attitude in the thing.
But again, we're going to digress and go back to the subject enough, but do you not think sometimes that's a generational thing, though?
I think
Mark was, 25 years older than you, and he's looking at the young boys and he's putting himself when he was a young boy, because you hear all these stories about the old YTS boys and being in dressing rooms with experienced pros and the things they had to do, etc. Then that all kind of changed. So he's putting himself, he's rating his attitude at 17, 18 to your attitude. It's not necessarily, not that I'm defending him because he's a plumber, but I'm thinking about in terms of the attitude thing. I don't think he probably meant any harm by it.
No,
he's just putting himself in your shoes, I think.
Everybody said it, and everybody you speak to has probably said that like football has changed completely since back then. I mean, our manager's very old school, and I think I'm not saying he struggles with it now, but I just think he has to approach things in a different way now because of however it's changed. So I did definitely get it. I think it's not just full level. I think it's right the way down through. Like even with boys that are coach, and this is just the vibe I get off of young boys nowadays. And it's just when you see boys fought. Like for example, I've got a park just up for me, and when I was young, I was on there as soon as I came home from school to 9 o'clock at night, and I hardly see that nowadays. And I just think it's as a generational thing that I don't know whether there's other things going on, but I just don't think there's people want it enough and enjoy it enough as well. I mean, the life in general in the world has just went a bit mad. So I don't know if it's a whole thing about generation, but I think football and people have changed massively in the over the last few decades.
I think as well, though, you can have big characters that don't have an attitude problem, and too many big characters in the same dressing room can cause friction. So the likes of your France squad, you can't pick certain players because you want to avoid that environment. However, if you've got a lot of big characters in the same dressing room, none with a necessarily bad attitude, it can sometimes be a little bit fraught. I played in a squad at Dundee which had Gary Harkins, James McPake, Paul McGowan, Kevin Thompson, Darnell Day, and at times it was almost too many they were all great guys and all good players, but at times there was just too many maybe opinions or too many. And I gave my opinion. I wasn't always playing, but at times I think it doesn't need to be an attitude problem, because none of them had an attitude problem, but it was just a lot of big characters in the same dressing room. And sometimes when people have got different opinions, it can get a little bit frosty or a little bit fraught. So maybe in that squad it was the same, obviously different level. You've asked me the level I played at, but you look at that France squad, and if you have got 5 or 6 different characters who are all big characters, that can lead to clashing through maybe nobody's fault or no an attitude problem, just different views on the game or different ways the game should be played.
See, I like a carry on and a joke, and Marco's probably that type as well. With that, probably was. I know he was, and I think sometimes people that like a carry on and a joke can get portrayed to have an attitude problem when it's not the case.
There's a lot of people as well, Shankers, but I don't know Mark Roberts, so I'm not commenting about him. I've never played with the guy, but a lot of people who are quite insecure in football do that. And what they do is they make a laugh and a joke it because they don't want it to be serious, because they can't handle it, if that makes sense.
Aye. I think, who was it? It's like Jason Cummins and people like that. They get portrayed about having a bad attitude problem because of he likes a joke and a laugh and stuff like that. But I've no doubt that when he's training and playing these games, that he's 100% committed, 100% serious. And I don't know if that's just because his social media and everything's getting filmed and everything's online and stuff now, so seeing all that stuff and people are almost judging a bit its cover. So I think that's one of the bad things too nowadays. And there's nothing wrong with having a joke, because you have to have a laugh and a joke at some point. If you're going to be serious all the time, then it becomes a bit robotic. So I think people who like a carry on and a joke at the right time, it must be at the right time. I must admit. So I think people like that can also be portrayed to have an attitude problem, and it's really not the case.
Definitely.
I couldn't really care anyway.
We've one more Euro question, then we've got a couple of Scottish ones. Who has been the most impressive Scottish-based player, past or present, at this year's Euros? Rory, I'll give that to you.
Scottish-based.
Scottish-based, so they've got to have played in Scotland either.
Right.
Years gone by. You can include a Scotland player if you want.
So I would go with... What I would go with would be... Not so much that he's been an outstanding player or the best Scottish-based player, but I just think fairy tale-wise, watching his dad win the Euros in 1992 has been the biggest underdogs in the tournament. Kasper Schmeichel's time at Falkirk.
Aye.
To repeat that, he's won the league the same as his dad with Leicester. Unbelievable. To see Kasper Schmeichel go on and lift the trophy. I don't know if he's the captain. The centre backs, but to see him lift the trophy at any point, his dad did it in 1992 as major underdogs. Getting wild card entry. Then with everything that's happened with Eriksson, Kasper Schmeichel, who, like I said, was at Falkirk on loan. I think that it would be an absolute fairy tale to see him up with a cup.
Paulson, who you got?
I think Stephen O'Donnell proved a lot of doubters wrong. Also go for Michael Lustig. I think did very well for Sweden as well till they get beat for Ukraine. I think subbing him off cost Sweden the game. But no, I had Kasper Schmeichel in my head as well. I think, I know he played with Falkirk, but to get to a semi-final of Euros, and I mean, to be fair, again, you look at the squad, you think, okay, fair enough. But I was surprised for the season that Barisic had and Hollander had, that they didn't maybe feature a wee bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Lindelof's a good player, but I don't think he's a great player. I mean, you could argue he plays Man United every week. Yeah, fair enough. But I actually felt, again, we don't know what other Croatian left-backs like week in, week out, but Barisic has such a good season and such good deliveries. I was surprised he didn't play a bit more. So I'd probably a plump for him because he had such a good season. But no, I'll stick with Stephen O'Donnell and Lustig.
Shankers, who you got?
Was that like shockers of the tournament that you just asked? Well,
no, the two best right backs in the tournament, I was asked.
It's quite a hard one. I think it's hard to disagree with Kasper Schmeichel. I actually forgot he's went on and had that much success in his career. You actually forget he's played in Scotland at a time.
It says in his book the highlight was playing with Rory. I mean, that's in his book. It says that.
I'm in a lot of books.
I said that was the highlight of his career.
Did you play
Falkirk
with him?
Falkirk had Tim Krul on loan as well. No, I didn't play with him. He was years ago, but he had Tim Krul on loan as well. Michael McGovern as well. They had some top goalies.
Motherwell as well pulled a few at the back. They did John Ruddy and Darren Randolph.
Aye.
The Motherwell goalie they had the other year, they got moved to Newcastle as well. Was he with you? Did you play with him at Carlisle?
I did, mate. Aye.
Who was that?
You asked me a question. Oh dear.
What was I going to say? We played against Man U in a pre-season friendly years ago, and Paul Pogba played on it. So I don't know if I've maybe had an influence in his performances at the Euros or that.
I think so.
So I have to probably take some credit in that, and that's how they popped out the tournament now. But
Do you know who was? See that game you're talking about? Remember who absolutely strolled that game?
Shankers.
No. Apart from him and Moffat, remember Ravel Morrison?
Aye, he was there.
He was quality, wasn't
he? There's a lot.
Are we going to talk about players we played against in that tournament?
Nah.
On you go, give us one.
I'm not going to tell you about the time I stuck one in the stanchion against John Stones. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, who was that? Was that Barnsley? Was it?
Aye.
Is it? Brilliant.
Right, I'm going to go for Danny Ward. I know he conceded 4 against Denmark, but I thought it was the main goal. I thought it was probably the best goal.
Who did he play with?
Aberdeen.
Did he?
Maybe that's what Kelly wanted when we got hit with Danny Rogers. The problem cost us relegation. Maybe it was his fault.
I was torn between him and Glenn Kamara. I thought Glenn Kamara was probably Finland's best player, but I couldn't really. I forgot all about Kasper Schmeichel at Falkirk actually. So.
No, Glenn Kamara did well in the Finland games that I watched. To be fair, he was one of the lovely shot as well.
See, to be honest, like off the top of my head, I think that's a hard question just to answer on the spot. You have to actually sit and kind of go through them. I mean, the names.
That's why I send you stuff before we come on.
I'm just going to say that, Rory. If you read the material that's sent out,
you gave him a thumbs up at Everton.
Then he's prepared.
You gave him a thumbs up at Everton.
I can, but you've got to thinking about that many things that you just.
Baby brain. He's got baby brain.
No, I'm trying to think. Like, apart from the players that you've rattled after, is there many more that there's?
Unless we go to a Scotland player, but
I mean, Dumfries, does he come into it?
How many times can we make that same joke?
Terrible. Turn into an off the ball throw.
Right.
I was just looking for all the names that Rory dropped on my living room carpet there.
Right.
John Stones never played for Barnsley again after that. There you go.
Correct. I got my move to Everton.
You got my move.
Oh, dear.
Right, we'll move for the Euros to Scottish football. We've got a couple of questions to go through. We'll start with one for Wilson first. Does Lee Griffiths deserve a new contract at Celtic? Yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
Because there's nobody else, and they're not going to spend money replacing French Eddie if he leaves. So why not?
What have you made a big Ange so far?
Well, I liked his passion in that wee clip they had on social media.
Come on, Wilson. Come on.
No,
I was waiting this coming up.
No, I think he showed a wee bit of passion.
Wilson, is that not how you speak to your players when you're like, did he say anything that you wouldn't say?
Oh, absolutely not. But I'm a better coach than him, though.
Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
See if you're a week into getting appointed as Celtic manager, would you agree to be mic'd in one of your first training sessions when you've met very few of the players?
I think if he disagreed, I know no, if he disagreed, we probably wouldn't know or wouldn't find out. Yeah. But I think it would it be a red flag to them if he disagreed to it straight away. Maybe no. I know where they're coming from, but what's he got to lose, really? You know what I mean? He's going to.
Sorry, Scott.
On you go, Wilson.
No, again, I just think it's one of these things now. You know, the Celtic and Rangers and all these clubs are now worldwide brands. So that club is going straight to Australia to sell merchandise and shirts and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably why they do these things. It used to be, and Rory and Shankers have probably done this in the past. You used to have maybe like an open day where the punters could watch a training session. Is it any different to that?
I'm being unfair on the guy, to be fair. I mean, he's in an impossible situation. He's it's one of his first training sessions. So
I get what you're saying.
Can you imagine like Gerrard would go for that though? Like
if he was mic'd up and he knew the video was going to get released, then everybody would need to do that, because you're not going to go into in-depth detail when you're mic'd up and things like that. You're just not going to do it. So the guy was put in an impossible position. So what I was saying there was kind of tongue in cheek.
No, but I think Gerrard wouldn't do it because he'd go and blaming the referees and the face paint and everybody else for Rangers' troubles. So he wouldn't do it, and he'd need.
It's a minimum requirement though to try for 90 minutes of the game though.
I
did get what he's saying and the way he's putting it across and all that, but I mean, if my players don't know that already without coming to tell them, then that's where you should be worried.
But maybe in defence of him, is he looking at all the videos for last year's performance?
He's thinking,
by the way,
this is
the minimum requirement. What's expected of me?
Aye.
But then I worried, because I can't imagine the likes of. I mean, I don't know how many Celtic players involved at the Euros. I can't really think of Callum McGregor off the top of my head. Are these first team players going to be back? Or is he talking to guys like Luca Connell and Anthony Ralston who are going to be playing for Stuart next year? Back to your question, as I say, I don't think there's anything. I mean, they might go out. The rumours are they might sign Nisbet. Again, if he's signing Griffiths, does he need Nisbet? If Edward's going to stay, or is Edward already away?
There's talk today a bid for Aaron Hickey.
He may be looking to play two up front. The rumours are, I think Patrick Vieira will be sacked before the season starts, probably, if he's looking at Ryan Christie for Crystal Palace.
Is he?
So, again, why not? You'll not probably find a better Scottish goal scorer at the moment, so why not? Give him a year.
See, just to interrupt and go off topic, I've been looking at teams to try and get. Doesn't surprise Wilson didn't pick up in the Austria goalie. He was a fan's favourite of yours. Was it Kirby, wasn't he?
Bachmann. I mean, he's probably the best goalkeeper I've ever seen at Kilmarnock.
Colin Doyle?
Genuinely? I don't know.
Is it better than
Lakovic? Mate, honest to God, Bachmann, it was a wee bit like when Ian Durrant signed. You've signed a player that's just a different level from the rest of the guys.
And you could tell that as the goalie?
Honest, some of the saves he was pulling off. I mean, not that I'm a stats man, but he played 8 games against Rangers, won 4, drew 3, and lost 1. And Bachmann as the goalie, it was
on a par with Peter Logan.
Well, no, let's not be ridiculous here. Let's not be ridiculous, but he could just, and it wasn't just his all-round goalkeeping. It was the confidence the back four had on him.
Who's Peter Logan? Is that the kit man?
He's the kit man at Hibs now, is he not?
He's just
I used to pick him up in the morning. He was a goalie in my youth team, right? And I got offered another contract, ended up moving on. But he phoned, so we were reasonably tight for a spell, because I obviously stayed with Wilson's mum and dad, and I used to walk round to the stadium in the mornings to get sorted and pump all the balls up and get the goal, when it was proper apprenticeship. And Peter used to do the same, and we used to drive up with Manny, the kit man, and me and Peter used to help him out all the time. So Peter texts me a couple of weeks later going, "Rory Gaffer's trying to phone me, what do you think he wants? Think he's going to offer me a contract? Think he's changed his mind?" And then in my head I'm going, fucking hope no. He texts me again going, "He's asked me to be the kit man." So he took the kit man job, mate, right? He was at the kit man at Kelly for years and years and years. Great guy, lovely guy. And he ended up having a spell out of it, and then he got asked again at St Mirren, and Jack Ross really took to him and took him to Hibs.
Aye. I think
that story.
Sorry.
I don't know if Rory played, but we played, I think it was under 17s, and we played Rangers down at Ardea. And the other goalie, Ali Caldwell at the time, he just had a shocker. Rangers were up 4-0. He chucked 2 in. He was really poor. And he was a wee bit an emotional guy. He was getting a wee bit upset, blah, with it. So me and the other coach, Big Stuart, says, maybe we should just take Ali out the fire line. I mean, it's now 7-0. It's not even... Used to play 3 half hours.
Aye.
The first half
couldn't
hour.
have been playing that day.
It's 7-0. Why don't we just take him out the fire line, just chuck Peter in for the second half hour? So we did that, and Peter chucked 4 in the first 5 minutes of the second half hour. And Rory says he was a lovely guy, a real nice guy, but oh my goodness.
We played Rangers in the semi-final of the BP Cup. Now, back in my day, the BP, Wilson, you'll know BP Cup was a big thing.
I won it.
You did, to be fair. It was a big thing, and we played Rangers, and the Jamie Hamill would have played, and Stephen Noble, all these type of guys, and we were flying 1-0 up, and Peter chucked a couple in. I'll never forget that.
Was that the game at Broadwood?
Aye,
and we'd won it the year before. And do you know what I always remember about that? It was absolutely brilliant. So I think it was Ian Jarrett had left Kelly, and he was in the Rangers dugout with John Brown. Right, I thought we were up 2-0, Rory. No, I thought it was 2-0.
Quite possibly 2-0 then.
Right.
I just remember chucking them in.
So
we're telling them for the far side took a free kick. One of the ones that just goes straight in.
Aye, well, every time we were just telling the boys, right, 2-0, just kick the ball at the park. At Broadwood, you can kick it down the main street, just get it launched. And every time we did that, there was somebody around the stadium with a ball, chucking a ball back so they could keep the game going, right? They go up 3-2 and the ball goes out, and there's nobody bringing the ball, and all the boys are sitting in the Rangers dugout in a bag. They only had the one ball out.
I was going to say, see if you don't make it as a pro and you get to an age and you don't fancy going to juniors or whatever, surely a kit man's going to be up there as the next best thing. I mean, hanging about the dressing room all day and stuff like that. I mean, see the guy. If there's an
injury, fill in the 22, the big Friday and a Friday.
See back in that day, Shankers, see back in that day when we used to travel to Troon or to the science parks or to, what was the name escapes me, the place down near there, the big estate.
Auchincruive.
I mean, you're talking, Shankers, part of the kit, well, it was part of my job, nuts and pegs, putting the goals up, putting the nets up, screwing them, nutting them, bolting them in freezing cold weather. The kit man used to help us with all that, pump up the balls, take the air out them at the end of the session. Kit man would be like part of all it. It was a proper graft, man.
Manny went to Norwich after that, didn't he?
He went somewhere, but he's
Norwich then St Johnstone.
Don't get me wrong, I don't think a kit man's job would be the same now, so you're probably right. But back in the days when I was at Kilt, don't get me wrong, I loved it. But it was a tough gig, man.
It's hard work.
That the boy that was at Morton got off and he's now the Rangers kit man.
Jim McAllister.
Is that what he does there?
Yeah,
he's a kit man now.
Is he? Did not
must be kind of a lot. I seen his interview and he was going, I've been offered the job opportunity that again, I never thought I would get that. And I'm going, whatever he's got, and it was the Rangers kit man's job.
Jimmy Bell's apprentice boy.
Those were the days back in Kelly, though. Those were the days, man.
I've got a question for you. I think I actually said that last night, but I can't really remember too much about last night. But did you see Gary Dicker?
Aye, the job at Brighton.
What's your thoughts on that? Gary Dicker's been signed to play Brighton to be the under-23s overaged player.
Answer the question. I just love how you've said you've not seen the layout, but that was the question. One of the questions on it.
Oh, what's it?
So on you go. But on you go.
I think it must be predominantly more a coaching role than a playing role, to be honest.
Yeah, probably.
And sometimes I think you guys would have possibly learned in reserve football, playing with more experienced players around you, would benefit you. I definitely agree with Shankers. It's very, very strange. I know your point was about, is he taking a place of a really good under-23 player, but I think with the money Brighton probably have and the wages Gary Dicker will be on, does it really make any difference? I think any good player at Brighton would have been signed anyway. So I think it's probably with a view of getting into the coaching side of things further down the line.
Do you think, see how he's an overage player? See, like a player coming back for, I don't know how many they get to play with, it's 3 or 4 or whatever, but see a player coming back for injury or that, how does the manager look at it and go, oh, well, we can't play Basuma coming back for his injury because we've got Gary Dicker signed? I
don't think he has to play, though. I think he can play overage players, doesn't have to play. So I'd imagine, if it's a 38-game league season for the under-23s, I can't imagine Gary Dicker's going to play 38 games. As I say, it's probably a view more to leading by example, captain or first-team coach type thing.
I think it's
leading by example, getting clubs relegated.
Well, that's true as well, and getting the Italian manager sacked and off. Fair play.
I just thought it was
lovely man. Gary Dicker's a lovely man. A lovely man.
Right, final question in Rangers before we finish up. What is your thoughts on Alfredo Morelos' possible move to Porto, Shankers?
He's greeting, look.
I'm not saying it's a strange one. I don't know where I was expecting him to go. I think that's the thing that I don't know. I didn't know whether he would go to a foreign league or whether he would go down south or whatever. Porto, I mean, is Porto any better than Rangers? It's a strange one. And that I thought he would go to a better side than Porto. I mean, Rangers. I think Rangers done pretty well again. I know it's obviously over 2 games in a group stage, but I just thought he maybe had a better move. And I'm not saying that he'll not go there, have a couple of years and then progress.
Give us a club, Shankers, that's the next level that you thought he would go to. Give us an example of a club that you thought he would go to.
I thought he would go to like I'm not saying this club, but something around about this kind of the level of like Bayer Leverkusen or something like that. I thought I don't know why you think they're a similar level to Porto. They maybe are, but it was more Porto in the league as well. It is a good league. I just thought he would maybe go to one of the kind of top 4 leagues.
As long as Rangers get their 80 million valuation, I mean, they can go anywhere he likes. You know, he's worth 80 million. You know,
see on that, being serious, what do you think realistic Rangers could get for him?
Again, I think coming from Scotland, he'll be undervalued as such. I think if Morelos had that season at Reading, Notts Forest, you know, one of these kind of teams, would probably get 30 for him. I think because he's coming from the SPL, between 15 and 20, I would imagine.
Rory, do you think it's a good move then? Or
I think it's a good move for him. I agree with you to an extent, but I think if I'm Alfredo Morelos, I'm looking at that going, right, I'm now going into the same situation again. I'm going into a league. Well, I'm going into a league where I'm playing with one of the strongest teams, if not the strongest team in the league, and a lot of the opposition are quite inferior. I think it presents an opportunity to bang in 20 goals a season for him.
Aye.
Whether it does or not, if he does go to a Bayer Leverkusen, for me, he's still got to prove himself after you leave Rangers and go to one of these clubs. That's just the way it is. You know, Virgil van Dijk needs to go to Southampton to get to Liverpool. I think if Morelos goes to Leverkusen and plays in that league, he disappears. He then needs to come back to Rangers. I think going to a Porto, he gives himself the opportunity to play against these types of opposition where the team have got the ball. And if they play the way it suits him, he could bang in 20 goals and get that move to the next level where I don't think he's good enough to play at that next level personally. I think he suits Scottish football really well. I think when you take him and Edouard out of Scottish football, I think Edouard will suit a German league or an English league. I think Porto will be his peak personally.
Wilson, what's your thoughts?
I think you know what he did was he kind of got the monkey off his back by scoring against Celtic, etc. I think he's won the league now, albeit they cheated, but that's another story. And I think he's ready to move on now. As I say, I agree. In my opinion, Porto are not a bigger club as Rangers, but moving to a similar league, as Rory said, might do him the world of good. I think he has that killer goal scoring instinct, but I think there's far too many marbles rolling about upstairs. Whether that will be the same in Porto, I don't know. And I always felt that kind of held him back a bit. And there was a kind of mentality thing against Celtic up until Celtic imploded last season. But as I say, I think in terms of European football, people will look at Porto as a better team as such than Rangers, even though Rangers did really well against them in the Champions League, the Europa League. But I think it's time to move on, and I think if Rangers still have, is it Eaton? Because he always seemed to come on last year, score a goal. I see Jermaine Defoe signed another contract. I wouldn't be surprised if
well.
Who's another one?
Boyfass and Sakala that's just signed.
He's rubbish. I would imagine they've got somebody in mind around the maybe £3, £4, £5 million mark that they're going to replace Morelos with.
It's a hell of a job replacing him. Yeah, you can say, and they can say what they want about him and off the field antics and all that, but he's going to be a hell of a...
Yes, I do rate him. I definitely do. As I say, I felt he just got But that's part of his maybe the way he plays. He got a wee bit involved in things he shouldn't have.
He's better when he's like
he can
that.
score goals. He can score goals. That's the bottom line.
He's untidy at times, though. He's untidy, and I just think that in the
That's maybe why doesn't he play for Real Madrid or Barcelona or Paris Saint-Germain or whoever? He doesn't play that just now. That shows you where Gerrard lets himself down. Hasn't been able to coach this guy properly, maybe.
Morelos could be reunited with a former Rangers player who's just signed for Porto. Do you want to guess who it is?
Bruno Alves.
Fabian Cardozo.
Fabio
Umar
Cardoso.
Sadiq. No.
Fabio Cardoso.
He's been linked to go to Man City.
Okay, that's what I was thinking of. Sadiq.
Former.
What would the fella? Does Candeas not play for Porto as well? No.
No, he's. I think he's in Turkey.
I think he's a corner flag.
Badge kisser. He was a badge kisser.
Well, we're going to wrap the show up there. I want to thank Wilson, Rory and Shankers as always for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Scott. Good luck, Denmark.
Brilliant. We will be back on Wednesday night after the England-Denmark semi-final to review both semi-finals. Thanks very much to everyone who's tuned in. Follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube.